Welcome to Hyperfixation Investigations, the podcast where two neurospicy best friends take time 2 Saturdays a month to info dump their research deep dive of the week.
Lovingly produced and copyrighted by Wolf and Stag Productions.
Today's fun fact is, in the video game LEGO Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, the characters of Lando Calrissian, C-3PO, General Grievous, and several smaller parts are all voiced by the same actors who brought them to life on screen.
Good evening, I'm Kara, and I will be leading this week's minisode, Legos! Part 2 of our miniseries, Geeks, Games, and General Mayhem.
Good morning, I'm Josh, and I'm just along for the ride. For those of you joining us for the first time, how things work here is Kara will be guiding us through a mini lecture on the topic, and we will discuss and ask questions throughout the episode.
Expect tangents throughout. We switch off duties each episode, so next time expect Josh to helm the episode.
Now to our regularly scheduled program. Kara, what have you been hyperfixating on this week?
Josh, this minisode will be about one of our favorite pastimes. Legos!
I love Legos!
So today we're going to go over the history of Lego, a quick overview of the kids versus adults debate.
Okay. Good gods.
And kind of a little bit of the business strategy behind that. And then we're going to talk about the franchises Lego has licensed with over the years and how it ended up as a media mogul.
Yep.
So without further ado, let's start building.
I feel like I should be building Legos while you're talking about this.
I know, but that requires too much brain power.
No, it does.
We hyper-focus so hard on our Lego sets.
I know it's true, but I do love building a Lego set while listening to a video essay
Yeah,
or
I
a
believe
podcast.
that. Yeah.
So
I need to find my other two, like I was telling you the other day. I have these really cool space ones. I have the International Space Station and the original Apollo Moonlander.
in Lego sets.
In Lego sets, yeah. And I bought them in Canada. They moved with me to LA, and I know they moved home with me, but do I know where they are? No. So we got to find those.
Good.
So personally, I started working not with Legos, but with the Duplo bricks,
Oh, yep.
which are still Lego, but they are the brand specifically made for children under like 5 and under.
Yeah.
So they're big, you can't choke on them. They're in bright primary colors, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I never had a specific building set for these. I just had a big tin in the shape of a giant Duplo brick.
Oh my gods.
So not tin, like plastic bin.
Yes.
That was filled with a variety of assorted shapes and sizes and colors of the Duplo bricks.
Good.
And I would build cities and skyscrapers and things to attach my Marble Run game to.
Oh, the Marble
set
Run.
to. Yep. And all kinds of other architectural creations. And much to the bemusement of my mother, they were often built on our very nice handmade Chinese rug in our front room
Nice.
and then left there for days, weeks, and sometimes months on end. This is one of the they should have known I was autistic moments, because if she took it down without my permission, I would melt down.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
That's
it was
fair.
one of the few times of my childhood when I had like true external meltdowns. I would freak out if people touched my Lego sets.
No, Legos very important. You can't move somebody else's Legos
You can't
without
touch the Legos.
No.
And she'd be like, Kara, we're having people over for dinner. And I'd be like, and they can come look at my really cool Lego building.
They can admire if they so wish.
Right.
Pay homage.
And at this point, I was young enough. We still had Brogan, the golden retriever that I grew up with as a young child, who was a very gentle soul and like seemed to recognize that this was important to me. So even though it was on the ground and very often unstable, though I had a surprising knack for building pretty stable buildings,
That sounds about right.
he never like would tear them down or whack his tail into them or whatever. And my family, for quite a few years of my young childhood, for sure thought I was going to end up in like architecture or something like that.
That's really funny because I was in the same boat as a kid.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, Josh is definitely going to be an architect or something. Granted, I also spent time telling people I wanted to be a dam architect
Yes.
because I spent a lot of time building dams in strange locations and actually got one time kicked out of the Children's Museum
Oh,
near
good.
here because I built a dam that was actually effective in that like water section they have where you pull the lever for the waterfall. And I started flooding the place.
Good.
And they're like, hey, you gotta go. What? No. How did you do this? I'm like, you supplied the materials. What do you mean? I took the sandbags that you have and I took whatever else I could find to shove in the cracks and I built a 3-layered, like a 3-tiered system to dam the water. I was successful. You're welcome. Thank you.
They really should have known. They really should have known with us. Well, and it's an interesting thing of like, I have a somewhat instinctual understanding of physics. We've talked about this, right?
Yes.
How I cannot do physics as an academic subject, but I
Right.
get the gist kind of instinctually. And this is also true of geometry, though I am much better at geometry as an actual math subject than I am
Sure.
any other form of math because it is so visual spatial
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing, which I have a lot of strength in. And I was playing with the Duplo bricks probably until I was like 9 or 10 years old. I
Yeah.
was not like 5 and bored with them. So I was probably somewhere between the ages of 9 and 10 when I got my first set that was meant for the older kids. So
Mm-hmm.
it had the instructions. It actually had a finished product at the end. There were the smaller traditional Lego bricks. And it was the original Hogwarts train and platform 9 3/4 set from Harry Potter.
Of course. Yep.
And I built and then took apart and then rebuilt that thing so many times. And I know they don't listen to this, but shout out to my kitty corner back neighbors, the Robinsons. We went to high school with their son, but one of their daughters, Barry Robinson.
I don't. Was he a sports kid?
No, he was the stage manager your freshman and sophomore year.
Oh my God, Barry?
Yeah, so his parents live on the kitty corner in the backyard.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Go on.
So his older sister Megan used to babysit me. There was probably an entire summer where whenever she came over to babysit me, and I was right at the cusp of being like, I didn't need a babysitter.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like she had to actively be doing stuff with me. She just had to be there to make sure I didn't kill myself.
Right. Or make sure that like somebody was around to call somebody if something happened.
Right, exactly. But she would sit in the family room with me and not help, but watch and listen to my monologuing about this set and Harry Potter. So shout out to Megan because she was an awesome babysitter for doing that.
Phenomenal.
But yeah, so since then the love or, addiction, whatever you want to call it, has grown.
Appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For Legos has grown to, like I said earlier, spacecraft, flowers, animals. My wish list on the Lego site is terrifyingly long.
It always is. No, I get you. I was always a Star Wars Lego kid.
Yeah.
I may or may not have spent many, many strange hours as a child watching History Channel and Discovery Channel while building Legos at odd hours of the night.
Because we didn't watch Cartoon Network or the Disney Channel or
Well,
Nickelodeon.
I did watch those too.
Yeah, but
like,
we also watched Discovery and History, the late night random documentaries when you couldn't sleep at 2 a.m. and your parents would say, as long as you do something quiet.
Oh no, God, how old was I? Like maybe like 4 or 5? Maybe 6. I'd have to ask them. When they at one point caught me sneaking out at like 3 or 4 in the morning because I was just sneaking downstairs to go turn on like History Channel or something along those lines.
Back when History Channel was good.
Yes, when it actually had documentaries instead of
conspiracy theories. Anyway.
Yes. Anywho, all the other Lego sets, delightful, good fun too.
We love them all.
Yes, Lego Star Wars is just usually the go-to for me.
Yeah. My mother donated that original Hogwarts train and platform 9 3/4 at some point.
Oh.
I haven't forgiven her for it.
I was going to say, I sense no tension here about that.
She was like, I'm sure there were pieces missing. And I was like, I am pretty sure there weren't. And even if there were, no. And then other times she'll say, you told me it was okay to get rid of it. I was like, I don't see myself having done that. I have no memory of it. But okay. I love you.
Gods.
And now, the new ones that they have out that are the train and the station are like $450.
Yeah, of course.
Speaking of history, let's get into the history of Legos. So the Lego Group, which is LEGO in all capitals, and then group, was founded in 1932 by the experienced wood carpenter Ole Kirk Christensen, Billund, Denmark.
Did you say carpenter?
Yes, wood carpenter.
Well, I mean, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
In 1932.
Yes.
So he named it Lego as an abbreviation of the two Danish words leg and goth, meaning play well. Lego, coincidentally,
That's so cute.
also means I put together in Latin.
Yep.
But he
that's
didn't
too
know that
good.
when he named it that. So that had nothing to do with the name. It's
That's
just funny.
serendipitous.
The toys that he was making as a part of the Lego group in 1932 were wood. They were toy trucks and things like that. They were not the bricks that we know of today.
Sure.
So then, the global economic crisis hit. And apart from doing toys and like cars and airplanes and yo-yos, he also started doing ladders, ironing boards, Christmas tree stands, all kinds of other things for everyday use.
A Lego ironing board.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yep. In 1942, a devastating fire happened in the factory that virtually destroyed the entirety of his life's work.
Oh, no!
Essentially. It was in the middle of the night, and it ravaged the woodworking factory, but the adjoining family home, where his wife and 4 children lived, was saved from the flames.
That's damn lucky.
Yeah. In 1946, so about 4 years later, Christensen ordered a plastic injection molding machine from Great Britain for the first time. And around this same time in England, the British toy maker Hilary Fisher Page, Fisher should sound familiar to you.
As in Fisher Price?
Yes. Who had founded Kittycraft Toys, had been growing dissatisfied with wooden toys. So he began crafting these new plastic toys with the injection molding tech, and he started selling under the brand name Breplax, receiving a patent for interlocking building cubes in 1940. Fisher continued to innovate, produce other toys, create smaller brick designs, and patented them in 1947 and began marketing them as Kittycraft self-locking building bricks.
Kittycraft self-locking building bricks.
Right. Christensen was obviously inspired by this. He created his own version using his injection molding machine. And in 1949, Lego was manufacturing 200 different plastic and wooden toys, including its own interlocking brick called the automatic binding brick.
Okay.
Yep. This was partially in recognition of the Allied forces having helped liberate Europe and bringing an end to World War II, so it was given an American name.
Okay.
The Lego Group eventually bought the residual rights to the Kittycraft brick design in an out-of-court settlement in 1981. 1981, so for almost 30 years, essentially, just over 30 years, there were 2 different brands of interlocking plastic brick toys in existence, but you've really only heard about one of them. And now that one owns all the patents to the other one.
You know what? That's rough for the first guy.
Yeah.
Oof.
Though, Fisher went on to do fine.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So we have a few other, I'm not going to go through the extensive list of interesting times I found, interesting dates and things that I found in the Lego history. We're going to do kind of a overarching of the most interesting ones to me.
Sure. A speed run.
Yeah. 1956 was the entry to German market.
Okay.
1958 was the new patent for the coupling principle found in today's Lego bricks. And so that's the stud and tube system.
Wait. So how are they connecting the bricks before the stud and tube?
That's a good question.
Because the stud is that's...
They may have still been that design, but not patented, but I will live fact check.
Okay. Live fact checking.
So they still had the studs.
Okay.
But the bricks were hollow on the bottom, so they were less stable and could warp over time.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So there's the connector on the bottom side was a different.
Right.
Okay. Nice. Well, I'm glad they
So it was
improved
more
on
like
that.
just friction from the upper studs to the edges, the outer edges of the bottom of the brick above it, instead of into a tube that matched
Right.
with the stud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
10 years later, 1968, Legoland opens in Billund, Denmark.
Oh my God.
And one of the key creatives behind that was Christensen's niece, who had worked at the factory for a little while. I think her name was Dagny Holm. She was Lego Group's chief model designer until 1986, when she retired at the age of 70.
I love that.
And so a lot of the original buildings from Legoland in Billund, Denmark, and the things that were created and the models that were made were her design and her putting them together. So she was one of the key people behind that. Notably, the Lego Group has remained in the Christensen family control for its entire existence. There was one non-Christensen as a CEO at one point, but only for a few years, and there were 1 or 2 Christensens still on the board that had governing power. Then that person was replaced with Christensen.
Amazing.
Yes.
You know, there are not a ton of instances where I'm always in favor of a single dynasty taking hold of a single company forever.
Mm-hmm.
But hey,
It's working for
in
'em.
this case,
It's working for us.
it's working for us. And I'll take it.
1969, we have the Duplo bricks entering the global market. 1978, the minifigure is first launched.
Oh,
Gotta
Yep.
love the minifigs. 1999, the Lego brick is elected Toy of the Century.
oh,
2002, the first Lego retail store opens in Cologne, Germany.
oh my God.
You've got 1999 or 1997. I'm skipping back just a little bit, but one of those years was the first video game.
Yeah, okay, yep.
2014, the Lego movie premieres. And in 2019, we had the 20th anniversary of Lego Star Wars.
Yep. Which is wild that they've been making Lego Star Wars
For that long.
for that long.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, no, they definitely have.
So I'm just going to go through a brief, non-complete list of the franchises
Oh my God.
and or brands that have been a part of the Lego history.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, obviously.
Yes.
Harry Potter. We've talked about those.
Yes.
Marvel, DC Comics, Formula One, Adidas,
Oh, yeah.
Nike.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
IKEA, Levi. You can get Lego buttons for your Levi's.
What?
Yeah.
Hang on. I need to go look this up expeditiously.
Yeah. Animal Crossing, Bluey, Peppa Pig, Despicable Me, Fortnite, Jurassic World, Lord of the Rings,
Yep.
Minecraft, One Piece, Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Wednesday from the Addams Family in general, Wicked, Pac-Man, Disney, including Princesses, The Lion King, The Dalmatians, Mickey and Friends, etc., Gremlins, Willy Wonka, Transformers,
Willy Wonka feels weirdly specific there.
Yep. Artists like Vincent van Gogh and other masterpiece creators.
Oh, yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon, Pirates of the Caribbean, Hasbro, and Lamborghini, to name just a few.
You know, a couple of those feel really odd.
Mm-hmm.
What's Lamborghini doing with Legos?
You can get car sets of Lamborghinis.
Oh, no, of course. Well,
Yes.
You know what? As soon as I said it. Yep. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Steinway should be on that list because I'm pretty sure there's a Steinway Lego set for a grand piano.
That sounds familiar.
I think there might be Jeeps, but they could be Range Rovers. I'm not sure. Like, it's just...
Yeah, at the very least, I know there are many Lego sets that have included Jeeps.
Yeah.
So, wouldn't surprise me.
So that's the non-exhaustive, just what I could find in 20 minutes of searching list.
Good God. Every single time a new one pops up, I'm excited.
I know, me
I'm
too.
excited every time.
They work with NASA, obviously.
Yes.
That one I should have had on the list because I own
Well,
them.
It's on the list, just you saved it for later to
Yeah,
mention here.
exactly.
Yes, not
Yes,
on the enlist
NASA.
format.
Some of their special editions have been NASA related. So I think I got the Apollo lander on the 50th anniversary year.
Mm.
I think that was the only year they were offering it. And I waited in line for 6 hours at the Lego store
Oh,
in Richmond, British Columbia.
incredible. Have they ever, you might have said, forgive me, have they collaborated with Star Trek? I don't know of any Star Trek Lego sets. Because if they haven't,
Okay, this was the top Reddit that came up
okay. Okay.
from 2 months ago.
Oh, God.
The R Star Trek feed.
Okay, yes.
There is a rumor that the USS Enterprise is going to drop on Black Friday of this year. I might be able to convince my mother to go in on the Star Trek Enterprise.
You might.
I might. It looks like there are small, tiny sets,
Okay.
maybe from like old Star Trek, but
No TNG. Shame. That baffles me though, because why not have each version of the Enterprise
right.
in Lego form? Hey, Paramount, what are you doing? Why not?
I'm looking.
Well, I mean, I
I'm
know why not, because
looking.
Paramount is allergic to money. They're allergic to good decisions, really.
Yes, this is true. It's not like they work with Hasbro instead or something. It's so I'm not finding any specific reason why Star Trek's not there.
Weird.
All right, so this might be a good time for the intermission. Time to implement the most difficult skill in Lego building. Taking a break. Especially after trying to break apart the bricks when you screw up.
Oh no, that's next to impossible. I gotta keep going.
Truly. The little thing, the lever thing, doesn't even freaking work most of the time.
No, like it's helpful sometimes.
Yes.
And,
Props for them making it.
Kids these days will never know how easy they have it with that newfangled toy. But
Truly.
it is genuinely very helpful.
Yes.
The number of broken nails.
Oh, God.
Horrendous.
Bruised fingertips.
Ugh. For those who appreciate social media updates and episode reminders, please follow us on YouTube at Hyperfixation Investigations Podcast or Blue Sky at HI-podcast, or sign up for our email list at our website to ensure you never miss a thing.
And please leave a comment or review on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even on our website. We love to hear from you, and it helps us a lot. If you would like to contribute to us directly and help us to continue growing, consider subscribing to our podcast on Patreon. Now let's put our bricks back together, correctly this time, and finish up the build. Now we're going to talk a bit about the kids versus adults. Because I feel like this is the discussion.
I have thoughts.
Yeah, there's some stuff that just like Lego has put out, or some of the major blogs about Legos have put out. So I'm going to talk a bit about that. There's an article from Medium from an author, Cindy Wong.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, quote, "The adult Lego fan often sees a Lego set as a project with a well-defined beginning and a definitive end. The finished build is then beautifully displayed like a trophy. If it is damaged, it is fixed to look exactly the way Lego designed. On the other hand, while a child typically sees a Lego set as a project, they also see it as endless possibilities after they finish. There are always ways to make different, cooler things by rearranging the pieces, even if it started as an accident or no longer follows the instructions." So, I mean...
That's called creativity and time.
Right. I'm like,
but also childhood in a nutshell. So, like, I don't see why that's... What is this Lego specific about it?
And I'm also like, if I wanted to just F around with Legos, I would go get a whole bin. They sell cups at the Lego stores to just get pieces to just build whatever I wanted. Then I could do that. But I find the satisfaction. Now, you also have to take into consideration that we're autistic. So...
Well, okay, fair.
There is the certain rigidity of thinking that comes with following instructions and finishing something and having it look amazing.
Because I have been more or less the same way about Legos my entire life.
Yeah. My Duplo sets were made for creative building.
Sure.
My Lego sets are made for completing the Lego set.
Yes. Now, that's not to say that I haven't made whole new random things out of my Lego sets, but that is always because it broke or some piece was missing and I just had to make it work.
Yeah.
And then I went, you know what? Yeah, I can turn this ATST into actually like an orbital cannon.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure.
That's what it is now.
Right.
But you can tell that it maybe used to be something else. But I like repurposing stuff when it's no longer able to be.
I'm going to have to do that with my, I have one of the Hogwarts sets.
Mm-hmm.
Not the brilliant giant one, but one of the ones where like you can still technically play with it because the back's open.
Oh my God. Yeah, okay.
It got knocked over when I wasn't home at some point.
Ooh.
And then Mickey chewed on some of the pieces. So the pieces are all just in a box someplace. Good times. Anyway, so there is also a whole, and when I say adult in this context, I do not mean like 18 plus inappropriate theming or material adult. I just mean for people old enough to take joy in the more complex sets or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's what they mean by adult in this circumstance. So there's a whole adult side of Lego.com and the whole Lego shopping process and all of that, where you often find more complex sets, throwback sets, like making an original Game Boy out of Lego. You get like the Lego dot art pieces of Van Gogh or the Great Wave or things like that. Architecture sets, fossil sets. You can get a T-Rex fossil set. And so many others, right? Cars and there's a video camera, like old-fashioned film camera set that I want so bad.
That's pretty cool.
And there are also articles on this side of the site for adult creators and people who want to get into designing sets and maybe doing the competitions, as well as mindfulness exercises. They have little challenges or mindfulness exercises like, hey, take 25 to 35 pieces of only yellow bricks. And for 5 or 10 minutes, when you need a break, put them together in different ways. Then there's this conversation, you might call it a downside,
Uh-huh.
that the adult lines are very expensive.
Yeah.
They are meant for display, so there's not many play features or movable aspects to them like there are with the children's sets. And so then you've got Duplo. There are more kid-appropriate themes, like the minifigures for the Disney princesses look much more like refined Polly Pockets than they do like traditional Lego minifigures. The castles that you build or the sceneries that you build have movable and playable features on them. And the complexity levels for building it are obviously at a lower level for children's between the ages of like 5 and 13, you know?
Yeah, which makes sense.
So, you know, there's an interesting discussion in terms of like a kid's toy company gearing so heavily towards adults now because there is a very heavy duty gearing now.
Yeah.
But it also saved them from a pretty significant potential financial, you know, downfall when they were like, hey, when we only target kids, there's not enough.
Yeah. The financial power of nostalgia.
Yeah.
It can work wonders.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand the, I don't know, potential concerns for, hey, what's the purpose of the company and like who are we gearing towards and why? But also, as long as I can still get my Star Wars and Lord of the Rings Legos,
yeah,
I'm happy, man.
Yeah.
You know, you can pry my Legos from my cold dead hands.
You can bury me with them.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm of the full belief that
because again, we can do both.
Kids are not being neglected or ignored by the company. It's not like they've lost sight of their lifelong, you know, company-long goal of giving high-quality toys to children that are engaging and educational and, you know, all those things. But, like, adults also like to have fun.
Right.
Adults also like to build things and, you know, have a sense of accomplishment and completion and have really cool... I want Rivendell on my shelf in my office. There's nothing wrong with that. Why some of these people, I'm like, why do you care that I want
no, which is always
to display Rivendell on my shelf?
But like, hey, the company can do both.
Right.
Like I get maybe if it's ever detracting.
For sure.
Then sure.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong from anything you've seen, but usually if I see anything about this, it's just random people who like to moralize about being better than people because they think like, well, I don't play with kids' toys. Like, buddy,
there were some.
You got to chill.
I didn't watch any of them because I knew they would enrage me.
Okay.
But I saw like shorts on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram showing up in the searches of like moms being upset about it.
Okay.
Such a strange thing to be upset about. That there's an adult complexity version of your kid's toy.
Right.
Like, yeah, you're not going to get your kid the $900 Hogwarts set that is architecturally accurate. You're going to get them the one that opens up in the back and has all the little cute spinny features like the, you know, the Hogwarts common room door opens and stuff like that, you know.
It reminds me of the same people who get upset about books that are labeled as YA for young adult.
Oh, and then adults read them.
And then people in like 30s and 40s reading them. It's like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a book.
It's a book.
It's still, it serves the same function. Chill.
Right.
I don't get the vitriol.
It very much, to me, it feels like a weird extension of like puritanical thinking.
Yeah.
That children and adults are not supposed to be in the same spaces. But I'm also like, if you're paying attention, we're not.
Right.
Like a 6-year-old is not playing with the Legos we're playing with. I'm not interacting with 6-year-olds while I'm making this thing.
Right.
If I were to build it and put it on YouTube as I was building it, most likely not going to come across a 6-year-old's page. It's going to come across the page of other adult Lego builders. So it's like weird that it's a discussion, but I also think strategically as a business, a brilliant decision.
Absolutely.
They have made so much bank on gearing. Now, I would say probably half of their new sets that come out every year are specifically geared towards adults. And you know they're making bank.
Oh, yeah.
Our last little section is the movies and video games.
Yes.
So I'm going to do, again, a non-exhaustive list of the video games because it depends on what platform you're talking about and all this other kind of stuff. And it's a really long list. If you want to go read the whole list, the resource link will be on the website.
Good gods.
But I will say it was fun to note. Oh, I was wrong earlier. The first video game was on the Sega.
Okay.
The Lego Fun to Build from 1995.
Incredible.
Yeah. So then you have Windows PC starts with Lego Island in 1997.
Oh my god. Yep.
Mac's first game was Lego My Style Preschool in 2000.
Sure.
You start getting Harry Potter games in 2001, Star Wars in 2005, Indiana Jones in 2008, Lord of the Rings in 2013. Well, it depends on which Star Wars. Yeah, but anyway.
Well, but because it made a ton of Star Wars Lego games.
On the Nintendo 64, you could play Lego Racers, which came out in 1999.
Oh my god, that's right.
The first one on the GameCube was Bionicle the game.
Oh,
from 2003,
Bionicle.
Which my nephew loved Bionicles growing up.
What a classic.
So that was great. You've got Wii and Wii U with like the Star Wars saga from 2007 up to like Lego Marvel's Avengers in 2016. So there's crossover. You're starting to get like crossover between platforms now.
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch, more recently, you get Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, like you had mentioned in our fun fact. Other systems include the Game Boy Color, the Nintendo DS and 3DS. You've got the PlayStation starting in 1999, and essentially every version of the PlayStation since then has had Lego games. Microsoft Xbox starting in 2003, same deal. It's kind of been everywhere since the mid-90s in the video game world, which is hilarious to me.
Oh, yeah. But props to them for hopping on top of it immediately.
Totally props to them. So there's a conversation to be had about game companies becoming media moguls through video games and movies and television shows.
I'm sure.
That is a topic that kind of requires its own episode. Like a whole full-length episode, because you've got Hasbro and you have Lego. You have these big game companies that have essentially now like have huge stakes in video games and in movie. But yeah, as somebody who grew up playing with the physical sets and everything, and who really wasn't, I think I had the original Harry Potter Lego minifigure video game for my PC.
Nice. I
think. Or my PlayStation 4, whatever game came out with the PlayStation 4 or 2. PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2. Yeah. So I had like a one-off of the Harry Potter game, and I could never get past like level 2.
Oh my god.
Ever. It was infuriating, so I never played it. And that was my own inexperience, and yeah, it was not the game's fault, obviously.
Sure.
Personally, I didn't really have experience with Lego media until the Lego movie came out.
Oh my god.
And then that became like a cult sensation. And then the Lego Batman movie came out, which was also a cult sensation. So
you can't see it, but I'm nodding vigorously.
Yeah, he is. So you had the Lego movie, which came out in 2014, which is crazy to think about. We were still in high school. Feels like it was more recent than that. To date, it has grossed of almost $250 million.
Oh my god.
Then you had the Lego Batman movie, which came out in 2017. It has grossed to date $175 million.
Was that long ago?
Yeah, it was February of 2017.
Dang.
In September of 2017, you get the Lego Ninjago movie.
Oh, yep.
Which Ninjago is a whole like sub-brand within Lego minifigures, like Bionicles was.
Yeah.
That one did not do as hot. That's only made about $30 million. And then you got the Lego Movie 2, the second part.
Oh, yeah.
From 2019, which has made gross to date $105 million.
Wild.
Which I think had a $99 million budget.
Okay. Hey, that's
was the highest budget to make so far of all of them. But yeah, that original Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie have become somewhat iconic, I think, for people who like Legos and people of a certain age group who like were in the right era of when they had those originally.
Just the right demographic when they came out.
Yeah. And that's where like the I'm Batman TikTok sound came from. Was from, I don't remember if it was the Lego movie or the Batman movie, but still.
It was one of them.
Yeah. So it's just, Morgan Freeman being God in the Lego world. And
Yeah, because of course,
of
because
course.
he's got in every other movie he's in. Why not?
Exactly. So yeah, they're great. If you haven't seen them, I highly suggest you go watch them because they're very entertaining, regardless of whether or not you like Legos as a toy.
They are very fun.
They're very fun. But yeah, that's kind of everything I think I had for this little mini-sode. Do you
Hell yeah.
have any questions or comments?
Not that you haven't already answered.
All right. Great.
So, yeah.
Then congratulations, everybody. We finished the build. We can now put it on the shelf.
We'll only adjust it 27 more times.
Yeah, till we get that angle
Mhm, mhm.
just right.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll get one of the fun light sets.
Oh, yes.
The only way I will build the Rivendell set is if I get the light set. And now Lego doesn't make the light sets. It is a third-party brand.
You do have to get them separately.
But I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can build that set unless I had the lights.
God, it is so pretty.
Anywho, that's our episode.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. That's a wrap on Minisode 23, Legos. If you'd like to delve further into this topic, our research sources and related images are posted on our website, hyperfixation-investigations.com. Again, that is www.hyperfixation-investigations.com. Thank you so much for listening.
Follow us on social media for updates and check out our Patreon to support us directly, join our Discord community, and receive other special perks.
See you next week, and remember, what's a little info dumping between friends?